Hello, I'm Luke Hatfield, alongside me Tim Spiers. Tim, let's talk transfers, because I've seen some people on social media getting a little bit antsy. We haven't seen anyone come in yet.
No, we haven't. But I think you could say that for most clubs.
Yeah.
The market is usually slow to get going. Of course, you know, when there's a big deal, there's always a knock-on effect around the rest of Europe in the Premier League, and we haven't seen many big deals yet. You know, Villa have made a couple of early moves, as of course they need to. Which is perhaps why it's noticeable for Wolves fans. You know, Villa are doing business, why aren't we?
Yeah. However,
what you would say is that Wolves' squad of 18, which got them through the vast majority of last season, they're all still intact. So as far as numbers go, you know, they're in a good, solid position. We know they need, or we believe they need, more players to cope with the Europa League schedule this year, however far they get into that competition. However, we don't know what Wolves' strategy is along these lines. You know, when I spoke to a couple of people at the end of last season, once Europe was confirmed, it wasn't really, hadn't really been decided yet if Wolves are going to go down the route of promoting under 23 players to beef up that squad, or some of the castaways, you know, that we've seen, the likes of Bonatini, some of the youngsters, Ina Bakari and Ronan, Roderick Miranda. You know, these guys that people have perhaps forgotten about, you know, they're still contracted to Wolves. Will they help beef up the squad, or will it be a host of new additions? Those questions haven't been answered yet. Internally, the club will know exactly what they want to do, and their intentions will be made clear in the coming weeks. I do expect things to start picking up. They've been linked with a number of players, and I'd advise people not to read into that too much, because Wolves are an easy club to link players with. They've got money. We know that they've got a lot of money, and you know the type of player that they're often in for. You know, it's very easy to link a Portuguese player with Wolves, like João Felix. Doesn't necessarily mean there's anything in it. And I could go through a whole host of names that have been linked with Wolves in the past 2 or 3 weeks alone, and dismiss them really. So we'll wait and see when we kind of make their move. I'm sure it'll be soon.
Yeah, certainly. You'd start thinking that things will start to rev up. Where do you think they need to invest, Tim? Because you look at, you know, as you said, other teams starting to do deals. Where do you see Wolves wanting to stock players?
I think the two most obvious positions would be centre half, where they've been a little bit short, and centre forward, where you've got to have competition for Raul Jimenez. You just have to. Wolves know that, they're aware of it. We know that they've been in for Rondon. Whether that comes off, we'll wait and see. That's going to be a slow burner. He's got this release clause of 16.5 million. I think we'll see a bit of a bidding war amongst clubs trying to get away with paying less than that. He's got a year left on his contract. He's not going back to Albion. I think that's obvious. So clubs, including Wolves, who I gather have bid in the past but haven't met that release clause yet. So everything's kind of up in the air on Rondon, for example. But my point is, we know they're in for a striker. So striker, centre half, and then central midfield would be the other one. I think they need a different type of central midfielder for a bit of a plan B. A number 10 will be great. Someone pacey between the lines. You know, Gibbs White may be that man. But in the second half of last season, I don't think he suggested he's ready now. Maybe with another full pre-season under his belt, a bit more maturity, guidance from Nuno, that may change. But there's a big decision on Gibbs White as to whether you loan him out for a season, or because they do need that man. I think, you know, João Moutinho, they kind of tried him in a 10 role back over Christmas. He's got the ingenuity and the passing range in his locker, but I don't think he's got the pace to be a Premier League number 10. I think that's abundantly clear, and he's better suited in a deeper role. So they need a number 10. They haven't got one like that, in my opinion. And maybe wing back as well, because if it's the age-old saying, we're saying it for 2 years, if Doherty gets injured, you know, who else is there? They went big on Zinchenko last summer, you know, the last minute, and didn't get him, even though they had Johnny Castrato and Ruben Vinagre already. So perhaps a wing back as well. But for me, definitely central midfielder of a creative, attacking, pacey mould, and a striker and a defender.
So those are the key ones you'd see incoming. What about outgoing team? Because we've seen talk now of Helder Costa and Ivan Cavaleiro leaving. From what I gather, they will be allowed to leave if the right offer comes in, and that links with incomings, because if Costa and Cavaleiro go, you need replacements. And
from what I understand, Traore's going nowhere. Certainly at the time being, he's in their plans. But Costa, you know, we saw last season, he didn't make an impact in terms of goals and assists. You know, he tried hard, there was no lack of effort. He got a good run in the team and it just didn't happen for him. Leeds certainly interested. Wolves would prefer to sell. And Leeds won't be able to buy. I'd be amazed if they were to buy, because Wolves will want their money back, and £13 million is what they paid for him. So maybe they'll put together some kind of deal, perhaps where he's loaned to Leeds, and if they win promotion, you know, an option or an obligation to buy if they were to be promoted next summer, when they could perhaps afford that fee. We've seen that Wolves have done that themselves with Dendoncker last season, and Afobe going to Stoke. You know, an obligation to buy. That's become more of a common thing. And Cavallero as well. I think there's potential for them both to leave. I'd put good money on one of them definitely leaving. And then the rest will replace on, obviously, replacements as well. You know, you've got to trust Fosun, as the track record's been outstanding, of getting in replacements. We know that they're in for Rafael Camacho from Liverpool, but he's only played 2 games in his career. One was against Wolves in the FA Cup when they played the kids, and one was as a last-minute sub, I think, in a league game. So is he coming in to replace Costa or Cavallero? I don't think so.
All sorts of questions about his position as well, because he wants to be a winger, but then he's been played at full-back.
There are questions to be answered. I mean, is Traore seen as a wing-back? Are they signing players that can play in a couple of formations, or are they just signing players to fit into a 3-5-2? So this will all kind of become clear, but as you say, for outgoings, you know, there will be a few departures. You know, mentioned earlier, quite a few players that are perhaps forgotten now, like Miranda, etc. Bonatini will be one that I'm sure will move on. Courtney Hawes, we're waiting for him to seal his move to Villa, which all should go ahead. Not anticipating any problems there. So they'll need to recoup as well. You know, it's not just about spending a lot of money. But you expect them to be shrewd. You'd expect them to bring in loan additions like they did last year so successfully with Jimenez and Johnny Castrotto, as they did the year before with Jota, with Bolly. You know, they've been fantastic at that, getting players in on loan with an option to buy. I'd expect them to continue down that route. Yeah,
certainly. And I think one man which, you know, was talked about in January was Tammy Abraham. It's a very awkward situation regarding him and Chelsea. I'm not too sure whether he's going to be even leaving Stamford Bridge this season, is he?
No, I'm not sure if Wolves would go back in for him, really. You know, the guy turned them down last January. It was a complicated transfer deal with issues about playing for 3 clubs, etc. But I think they'll want someone more proven than that. I mean, like I said, we know they're in for Rondon, who I think would be a great foil for Jimenez. And if they're playing Thursday, Sunday in Europa and the league, I think you could dovetail between the two, perhaps quite seamlessly. Rondon's proven at that level. He scored 15 goals last year. He's 29. I think he'd be a great addition, especially at a kind of 12-13 million kind of price. And Wolves won't want to pay. If they think 16 million's over the odds, they won't pay it, because there's not going to be much of a resale value on this guy because of his age. So from what I gather, they're definitely in for him. We'll wait and see what happens with Newcastle as well. They've got the Rafa Benitez situation to sort, and the ownership situation. It may be Rondon's preference to go back there, having had such a successful loan spell. But they're looking at a lot of targets, a lot of younger targets, and I'd expect them to make a splash in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll take it from there.
Interesting. So there you have it. That's our little transfer update. Don't go expecting to see any massive deals done straight away, but it certainly looks like Wolves have got some irons in the fire. Until then, make sure you stay with us at expressandstar.com for all your latest Wolves news.